your little one keeps banging their head when they're in the middle of a tantrum, let's talk about it. Because I get questions about this all the time, and I'm experiencing it for myself for the first time right now, and I want to walk you through why it's happening, how you can handle it, and actually how you're going to have fewer tantrums with your toddler moving forward anyways. My youngest is about 16 months, and he just started doing this. In fact, this morning, I wouldn't let him get the grapes out of the fridge. He was very upset about that. And he does this kind of cute thing where he like bends over and like wants to forehead butt the floor. It's like his little tantrum moment, right? So let me share with you why this happens and how. But first off, the reason this happens, and I see it most of the time with parents who have kids that are like 2.5 and under, is because they're trying to regulate themselves and they don't know how else to do it, right? They haven't yet developed that part of their brain where they can regulate emotions. They're just trying to regulate their body in like an instinctual way, which when your body's in fight or flight mode, when your brain is in like survival mode, your amygdala is turned on, which is how little kids and toddlers are until they start to develop these skills. Physical actions is like your instinct, right? So for a lot of kids, actually like banging their head, they're trying to get that sensory input to kind of regulate their body. Even though it hurts, even though it can make them feel pain, like that's their natural inclination. The best way to handle this really is the same framework that I teach parents who have any tricky toddler behavior, whether it's tantrums or things like hitting, yelling, whatever. This works for little ones who are 1 because it starts to teach them those skills like emotional regulation so they're not hitting their head. So the in the moment and teach is like you being calm and you setting a boundary. So like with my little one, when he kept trying to hit his forehead, I like stuck my foot under his head and then I bent down and put my hand like under his head so that he couldn't bang it on the floor, right? If you can block it, gently block it. We don't want to let our little ones like whack their head against the floor. That obviously is dangerous. And then I picked him up and he was having a little tantrum. So I gave him like some of that physical input. That can be like patting their bum, patting their back, doing deep breaths. So you're co-regulating with them. That is the in the moment and teach part of my framework. And then the prep piece of my framework is really asking yourself, like, what skill do they need here to be able to do something different next time? And in this case, it's generally like starting to teach emotional regulation skills, which first of all comes from you just co-regulating with them in those moments. But secondly, starts to come when you teach them their own emotional regulation skills. So like at that age, they're not really talking, but you can teach them to like shake their hands and dance around. You can teach them to do like dragon breaths or blow really hard. You can teach them to do bubbles. Like you can start to do these skills with them because the more they learn it early, the better it's going to be when they're like 2.5 having full blown meltdown in the middle of Target because you wouldn't buy them like a little puppy or something. That's the most important thing to remember here is like in the moment, stopping them from hitting their head is super important, but it's not going to stop happening until you teach them some other way of managing their big feelings, which is why that prep piece of my framework is so important. And yes, even with little ones who can't yet talk, who aren't communicating a ton, like with my 16-month-old, like I'm still doing those things with him the same as I'm doing with my 3-year-old. So if that has been happening for you, it's happening for me too. That's how I've been handling it. That's what's going to make it better. And that's everything you need.